Welcome friends to Dev Diary 4 of Imperator Rome about unit types and their counters. Kind of rock, paper, war, elephant. We will learn about the 9 available unit types, their strengths and weaknesses against each other, their special place in the army where they are situated in there, their cost and their required resources. Standard infantry types and cavalries are of course the base of your army, but will be enhanced by specialized and more expensive troops using resources like special step horses, elephants, or the standard iron. Also, a first hint on modability is dropped. So first let's have a look at how this is sorted in the units. It's sorted alphabetically. Well, that doesn't inspire much fantasy from us, right? We want to go for strategic types. Strategic types are things like infantry. Infantry has no horses, so it's relatively slow. Well, light infantry is not so slow, but heavy infantry is quite slow. And it's basically, they are in the same row too. So we have light infantry and heavy infantry. They are in the center of your army. And they probably make the brunt of your army. So what is light infantry about? The good thing about it is it can assault. It's cheap and quick to build, can be built by everyone. The bad thing is it is weak against every other type of unit. It is very basic. If you have nothing else, build light infantry. Now, if you are suited better, you can build heavy infantry. These units can assault as well. So storm cities, probably, storm fortresses, require the iron trade goods to be built. So they have a requirement here. They are also not cheap, but they are also really good against cavalry, the former light infantry, and chariots. Chariots. Shall we go forward from that? Yeah, chariots belong to a group I would call like special units. They are kind of mounted, but then they are not mounted. So chariots are also rather cheap to build. They are the very basic, well, they are basically the light infantry for mounted. Very good against light infantry. So they are the counter against light infantry. Also cheap to build. Not quick to build, but they have a little bit quicker movement too. They are weaker against other units too. So use these if you want to counter light infantry. Now the interesting thing is, I don't know if this was forgotten or not, you don't need special horses to build chariots. I would think you would have horses. Now, speaking about horses, there it goes on, right? You have that cavalry that was mentioned to be weak against heavy infantry, but it is very strong otherwise. You also have light cavalry. What is the difference? Light cavalry is a very primitive form of cavalry that was used very early on in the Roman army. Now, they require the horse trade goods to be built, not very expensive to build, move very quickly. So movement, that's another important thing that, yeah, if you have slow-moving units, they can be countered by things like war elephants. They are weak against most units again, like the chariot, but strong against archers and light infantry. So, next thing is mentioned, the second row units, like archers and horse archers. But let's stay in the first row. We have the light cavalry. So not very expensive to build, move very quickly. Weak against most units, strong against archers and light infantry. We have the cavalry. They prefer to fight on flanks, as the light cavalry does. Require the horse trade goods to be built, as the light cavalry does. They are more expensive to build and move quickly, but not very quickly. The light infantry is a little quicker. They are countered by the heavy infantry and the war elephants. Light infantry is not countered by heavy infantry and war elephants because they can move so quickly. They move very quickly. So cavalry is good, very good against everything else. So it's your discount counter, except that it's not a discount. It's very expensive. It's one of the base units you should include in your army if you can. Then let's look at this above the cavalry, camels. They are a special unit, quick to build, move quickly, fight on flanks, so they are kind of a cavalry. They're strong versus lightly armored types and require the camel trade goods to be built. So they are a special counter versus probably light cavalry and light infantry, maybe horse archers, maybe archers. I'm not sure. Are they lightly armored? Well, they are not called light, but they would be lightly armored, I think. So these are camels. Very nice in there, like that touch of fighting camels is, I think, something special. It's like the war elephants. It's something special that is added, so we don't have a standard rock, paper, scissors setup that can easily be where easily an optimized army can be constructed. So your army will be situational. Let's look at the ranged things now we have. We have archers, a basic unit. Prefer to fight from the second row, can be built by anyone. And they can assault as well. So they are of your storm troops. We have heavy infantry, we have light infantry, and we have archers that can assault. So if you want to storm a city, these are your go-to units. Horse archers, for example, cannot storm the city, cannot assault. So the archers are good versus infantry, heavy and light infantry, but weaker versus cavalry. Of course, cavalry is the standard counter to ranged troops. They are also cheap and fast to build, so you want to have archers in there. A good combination, for example, would be heavy infantry plus archers. That is a good basic troop to have. Yeah, I mean, you should have something for the flanks too, and then you would add something like cavalry, and then you have the perfect and also one of the normal Roman armies. So you can see that it is well thought out in that it produces armies that make sense also from looking at the past and what was used. As we have the war elephants, this unit requires the elephant trade goods to be built. They are very expensive to build, but are very good against units that cannot quickly run away. And as it also counters, as we can see here, the cavalry that can move quickly, we can see that to get away from war elephants, you need to move very quickly. Which means you probably need to have horse archers and light cavalry. They are deadly to slower moving units, so these could be a counter to war elephants, but on the other hand not really, as the war elephants are probably so quick that they are only affected by units that move very quickly, and we only have one unit that can move very quickly. That is the light cavalry. Now from the modding example, there are directly below the war elephants, you can learn that first, this is a fixed system. Second, as they've written, you can compose as many unit types as you'd like. And third, that how much damage each unit type does to the other is not dependent on attributes these units have, but rather on their type. So there are fixed values that you can enter there, like you want cavalry to be good versus archers. Yeah, you have it here. Archers don't do much damage to cavalry. It's reduced by 25%, their base damage. But it could be that it is still influenced by some abilities, and probably these abilities are maneuvering and movement speed. So the speed of a unit is a modifier, maybe to these values. We don't know. Maybe these values make out the damage totally, and maybe the maneuver and the movement speed are just for the movement of the units in the actual combat screen, like in EU4 or in the old EU Rome or in Crusader Kings. So we can already muse around and build our armies in our head, like we want to have an army of war elephants and maybe horse archers and cavalry, all mounted machines of destruction. A combination of heavy infantry and horse archers would probably also be very good to most unit combinations. But there's also something that this dev diary doesn't answer. How does the combat work in detail? This is not what you want to see from a, like, this is the units dev diary, but this is what you would want for a dev diary number 5 now. But this seems to be a little bit complicated, otherwise they would have it in the dev diary number 5. They are probably still working on the system, otherwise we would have it then, because it would just make sense to now explain that. But next week they'll talk about pops, so they're going for the basics now. Like all the basics. Last week we had the powers, now we have the units, then come the pops. So we have the basic units the game is composed of, and after that we'll probably have the systems, how these basic units interact in the game. That said, I'm looking forward to the next dev diary and to have you here for more input and feedback. How did you like the dev diary? I liked it a lot. At the first glance, it still seems to be bland, but if you look into it, it opens up a lot. That's Johan's writing style, I think. It seems kind of very short at first, but after that, it opens up a lot because there's so much info in there and there's not much talking around. If you think about it, it's a good system already because it doesn't produce the only optimized army. That said, thank you for watching and happy gaming to you. This is Immanuel signing out. Have a great time. Until next time.